It's something.
Welcome into the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard. I'm Mike Ackelson along with Anthony Hartwig. Man, week 5 did not disappoint. Some absolute great games. There was a few lopsided affairs, but for the most part, it lived up to the billing. Conference play, league play, however you want to call it. Just some dynamite action around the Valley tonight.
We were treated, Mike. This was, I think, probably the best overall week when it comes to close games we were watching for a long time.
Yeah,
so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell you what, we're not going to waste any time getting right out there because we saw one that got to that lopsided thing,
but in impressive fashion.
Oh my gosh, Crestview was absolute dynamite, and the guy who had the front row seat for all of it, he's my man, Ty Bartell. And let's bring Ty in right now. And Ty, you got to see the Rebels up live, and whew, they were pretty impressive tonight.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say the Rebels are back, and if anybody doesn't agree, you got to take a look at this game tonight. I mean, you talk about the way Southeast was able to battle back a little bit in that first half. They found some scores, got that fumble recovery in the end zone by Crestview. It looked like Southeast was going to hang punches, but defensively, they had no answer for Crestview. And Max Hawkins, their running back, and then Jake Noling, their quarterback, that 1-2 tandem. I said Jake was reading that a book with the read on night. Defense the rest of the way through. Max Hawkins, who had a big 300 yards against Liberty, and then Jake Noling under center. Crestview got it done again. Said the class conference come down to Garfield and the Rebels, I think, for this MVAC Grace here. I really do.
Yeah, you said it. Garfield's the class. Garfield's the big boy on the block. Garfield always looks good in the league, and that's going to be the big test for Crestview going forward. Can they beat Garrettsville Garfield?
No doubt. But the thing with Crestview this year, man, I mean, they got the size, they got the strength up front. Their line moves bodies, and then they got the back Max Hawkins, got their quarterback in Jake Noling, who, I mean, he knows how to run the ball, but he's also was looking pretty good out of the pass tonight too, finding his receivers downfield. I mean, Jamison English is a great number one option receiver-wise. They really figured things out. Putting it on special teams. They got a pick 6 on defense as well. I mean, it's a Rebels team on all fronts tonight.
They looked very impressive. I think the thing I look back on this, Ty, when you see them, they're a young team. Like, they're not anywhere near where people would say they should be. They might be overachieving a little bit, but what this win's going to do for their confidence, it proves them to 4-1. They hit the halfway point of the season, and things are looking good for them. But we know what looms ahead. But when you look, you know, it sets up everything for that Week 9 showdown.
It really does. And I mean, I talked with both Max and Jake after the game, and they said, hey, most of the media,
I think we lost Ty momentarily.
Titus went through a tunnel.
Well, anyhow, I'll fill you in. I mean, you go back and think back 4 weeks ago, Anthony. They lose the opener 27-9 to Western Reserve. Since that point, the lowest points that they've put out is 30. But they've had 35, 30, 42, and tonight they put up 62. Very, very impressive. I think we got Ty back. And
am I out of the tunnel now? But no, as I was saying, man, a lot of media, a lot of news stations and everything, they were predicting this was going to be a 5-win football team. And I was talking with Max and Jake after the game, and they know that. They have that as bulletin board material. Everyone thinks they were going to be a 5-win football team. They're saying, hey, we're going into Week 6 looking for win number 5. Check us out now. I mean, this is a Crestview team that's been playing with a chip on their shoulder all season long. I don't think that's going to stop. And just doubt the Rebels if you're going into them at a matchup week, and watch how wrong they're going to prove you.
Well, while you were going through your time zone elapse there, I was just saying since week 1 where they were held to 9 points, 30 is their lowest output. So something clicked from week 2 on, and they're only getting better. I think week 9 looms large. Not that you want to overlook Brookfield, not that you want to look Newton Falls champion, but they know what's at stake right now. They've got to stack wins because they're going to need every point they can because some of these teams have struggled.
Yeah, and I mean when it comes down to playoff time too, you want those good positionings too, and you can't afford to slip up against a team like that, a team like what you got in the next 3 weeks, which on paper should all be winnable games for the Rebels ahead of that Week 9 matchup. But you're right, Mike. All 3 of those games realistically look like trap games now for Crestview, and you just got to keep your head on right, and you should be able to take care of business. But with the way they're playing, I don't think they're playing with much of an ego because no one's really given them a chance to have much of an ego. Everyone just kind of been doubting this team all year long, and I really don't think they'd have it any other way.
Yeah, not ego, confidence. There's a big difference, Mike, between confidence and egomania. And, it's a fine line, but Crestview's on the right side of it. They have all the confidence in the world. They know what their ability is, but they're not going into games thinking like we're the big boy, we deserve this win and we're entitled to this win. It's not that. It's we believe in our own ability to go get this win.
I actually think they head into each week with a little chip on their shoulder with something to prove, and that makes a team very dangerous to play.
I said, man, everyone was saying 5 wins for this team, and they're looking at next week, licking their chops, saying, okay, we could get our 5th win in week 6 right now, and then every win after that, that's just even more shoving it into everyone's faces that said we weren't going to be here. So I love the Rebels, man. The way they're doing things.
How many of these are we going to see next week?
If I'm every player, I'm looking up at the camera and I'm literally doing this, like, hey, here it is. Got it. Now we're going to get that second hand moving up after that. But hey, kudos to them. They have taken care of business, and that's a big thing. And I think you were anticipating getting to see them this week. What impressed you about them, Ty?
They're a fun football team that does things the right way, right? I mean, they run their offense through the run. They say straight up, you're going to stop us. You're going to have to tackle us if you want to derail our offense. And if you don't, it's going to be a long night. And then counteract that on defensive side. They try to slow down the run. Now, credit, Briar Picana did get his big runs. He got loose a couple of times, but they put that lid on him to where he wasn't being the big difference maker. They were saying, all right, you're going to have to beat us other ways too. He might get his yards, but he's not going to be the sole reason we fall behind the 8 ball in this game. They play good defense. They keep a lot of plays in front of them. And on offense, man, it's ground and pound until you stop us.
And Ty, just talking Southeast real quick before we let you go on the other side. It does not get any easier next week. They're hosting Garrettsville Garfield. They're going to see more red and black. I mean, the yellow and black coming in. What do they try to do the next week to try to shock Garrettsville Garfield and get a bounce back win?
Well, if there's any, I guess, silver lining from this matchup this week, it kind of helps you going up against Garrettsville next week, because a lot of things you see from the Rebels tonight, you're going to see similarities in the G-men next week, right? They're going to run the football well. They're going to try to take big, long plays, and they're going to try to take chunk plays as well, too. But the difference between the two is that Garrettsville Garfield is going to play what they call phone booth football. They're going to try to burn a lot of the clock. Yeah. So as for Southeast, if they have 1 or 2 drives that don't go their way, they might be looking at the third quarter down 2 or 3 possessions. So for Southeast, it really is going to come down to just trying to make sure they strike when they can. They had good offensive drives against Crestview tonight. But Southeast defensively, oh man, I've got to feel like Coach Ewell's going to be putting those boys through a lot of defensive drills and practice this week too, saying that 68 points on the scoreboard is going to be unacceptable going forward if we want to win games.
Yeah, you're not going to win, I would say, any games giving up 68 points.
Yeah. Unless you got some elite talent on the offensive side, you're not getting into many shootouts and winning with that. So, no, I think defensively, and I think special teams, I can expect the Pirates to be working on a ton of that going into this week. Southeast
home next week. Ty will be on the call for that one against Garrettsville Garfield. Crestview moves on to week 6 as well. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Dickey Electric Scoreboard show, buddy. Have a safe trip home, and we'll see you real soon.
We'll see you, brother.
All right, thanks, Ty. That was just one of the really good games around the area. And here's one, I walked in tonight, and I know you're a South Range grad. You
Yep.
looked at me and you said, I expect the Raiders to roll. And I remember you looking up at me as soon as
Took them a minute, but they got there.
Bam Bam punched him in the mouth real
They
quick.
did. He did.
And I give Struthers all the credit in the
You know
world
what?
because they answered.
Right. It was South Range that punched first. They had a long, typical South Range drive, ended in a touchdown. No extra point. It was 6-0. Struthers answered with a big play. A hole broke through the middle, and then Bam Bam's speed took them the rest of the way. They did get the extra point. It was 7-6. South Range answers, and then Struthers hits the ball back, block punt. 13-7.
Yeah.
Boom. And then that was it at halftime, I think. And then the South Range, that second half team, eventually wear them down. A big play in that game, though, Mike. Struthers, they're close. They have a big breakaway run again with Bam Bam going down the sidelines. Raider defense never gives up, forces a fumble inside the 5 while he's running, gets the ball back, and Struthers scored one more time after that point, but it was too much for them to handle.
To me, that was the turning point of that game.
Right.
And it was at that point you could see like confidence rise in South Range. You can see Struthers going, that's a mistake we cannot have. And it proved to be costly.
And you look at Struthers, and if they cut out the mistakes, they probably play South Range tooth and nail.
Yeah.
But it was a couple. That wasn't the only fumble of the game. The blocked punt in the end zone for a touchdown. Those mistakes against a team like that are just, you can't have them. So John Bayek knows it. The team knows it. It stinks for them, but you got to play clean football, and you get one shot at South Range per year. And in this particular night, they did not play clean football.
Well, and here's the nice thing: if you're the Raiders, for the most part, they've had a running clock the first 4 weeks.
Yep.
Now you're in a conference game that your guys had to play. You still won by 24. Yes, the clock wasn't running, but you still handled business the way it needed to be done. And you go back, I believe, is it 2018, the last conference loss? 2019.
At Niles.
Yeah. So, again, that conference streak continues for South Range.
And they've only lost one game overall ever in that new stadium at South Range, and that was to Green last year.
And then probably one of the best games of the night was down in Salineville.
Mm.
Southern Local and United.
That wasn't on our radar.
Yeah. You want to talk about a slobber knocker in the trenches. These two teams just threw punch after punch after punch at each other. And in the end, it's a field goal difference.
Yeah.
United, I don't want to say escapes, but they leave.
I think you escape the wigwam. Anytime you're down there in the wigwam, you escape it, right?
But you escaped with the W.
Yes.
And that's the big thing. I think that is a big, big win for United because it's not an easy place to go play.
They need it because this EOAC is looking pretty tough, a lot deeper than maybe in years past. So you can't afford the loss because the Valley Christian looks strong. East Palestine, even though they lost tonight, looks like a team that can beat you.
Yeah.
They were scoring right with Valley Christian to the very end. So, that EOAC looks a little bit deeper. Lisbon looked pretty good. Wellsville had a great win tonight. Yeah. So it looks a little bit deeper than maybe most years.
Yeah. Another good game that was a game for a while was Springfield. And in the end, it was the Tigers pulling away. They win by 29, 37-8. But that was a dynamite game. Again, you want to talk about a program that just takes care of business. And I believe that gets Sean Guerrero one win closer.
One win closer
to
now.
Becoming the all-time winningest coach.
One win away. I think he got his second win of the season last week, and now that's his third win. So 1 win away from being the all-time winningest coach in Springfield football history. We'll have to watch to see if they can do it next week.
Yeah. So, congratulations to them. Big shout out to Cheney tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give the Cowboys.
There's something about Cheney that this is the bugaboo for Canfield.
Oh my gosh.
Tell you what.
It's just, you heard me when I first come in. I said, we're going to keep an eye on this game. And I like Cheney because for whatever reason, they just give Canfield matchup problems. And again, it proved to be that way. And it's just, once it was 14-0, I remember looking over at you and I said, this one's going to be real tough for Canfield. And they had a couple chances, and that Cheney defense, inside their 20 was like, not tonight, Canfield.
I think it's the combination of Cheney's size and speed in the same group.
Yeah.
It gave West Branch fits last week. West Branch eventually figured out a 20-6 win, but it was scoreless at halftime. Like, they were giving West Branch a whole lot of problems, and they continue to do that today with Cheney's Canfield's offense.
Big win for them. Poland taking care of business against
That's
Hubbard.
big.
28-0.
I think Hubbard was the quote-unquote favorites going into this game. The way they were playing, the way they Poland didn't look great last week in that 17-10 loss to Canfield.
Yeah.
Hubbard was probably the favorites, in this game. And Poland said, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, not on our turf.
You're coming to the doghouse.
And I'm going to give credit right now because I'm kind of setting this up. Poland took care of business, did not overlook Hubbard. South Range took care of business and did not overlook Struthers. Oh, by the way, folks, they just happened to play next week.
And look, this is it's a rivalry.
Yeah.
All the teams in the NE8, there's like I've said it before, there's always been a different team that is that team that everyone thinks is going to push South Range. This week this week it was Struthers. Everyone was high on that. But no matter what, everyone in both communities just gets a little bit fired up for this one. I don't know what it is about these two programs athletically, like every sport. It's just a little bit different when it's Poland South Range. They've become that big NE8 rivalry for some reason. And you wondered when South Range joined the league, what was going to develop as a rivalry. And I would argue that it's Poland.
Yeah, and I hate to quickly look ahead next week, but how can you not?
Right.
I mean, you see what's looming here, and it's
the final home game of the season minus playoffs for South Range.
Yeah. I think any school would love the first 6 at home.
Right.
But
then like DJ said last week, there's that flip 22 where it's like, okay, but the next 6 weeks, all on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Next year it's all on the road. But
I mean, like even this year, you have to finish the season, finish the stretch, road game. 4 road games
before you could potentially play at home again.
Right.
And there's no given depending how everything stacks up in their region. But that is just kudos to their how about Western Reserve also?
Radar is strolling in with something.
Radar's got something for us. He's got scores.
Radar's got scores. What's up, buddy? You want to take a seat?
I think Radar's going to join us,
seat,
and
man.
I'm okay with that. But let's go back. Western Reserve goes down by the railroad tracks in Coatesville, and they actually played a really good game to come away with a 41-22 win over Lowville. You got Radar coming in here. Radar's going to talk for us.
I can really say on that Anthony, on that Western Reserve Lowville game a little bit. Western Reserve definitely deserved it a whole lot, and a whole lot more tonight. And when it was 28-22, when it was in the fourth quarter, I thought for sure that Lowville may make another comeback against Western Reserve, but how did that Western Reserve have that revenge on their minds? Revenge.
Those two are rivals, man. They're big rivals.
Going back to the old ICL days.
Exactly.
Well, and here's another thing, and I'm sure Western Reserve, a lot of people would have told you there's no way they were going to be undefeated halfway through the season. They're sitting there perfect 5 games in. Offensively, I think they have found their game since week 3.
They found their running attack is what they did. That run game for Western Reserve is no joke. I mean, you try to stop Darney in the backfield, you can't. Riccardi in the backfield also are a lot to handle. It's just there are monsters in that backfield that I wouldn't want to play, and they wear you down. And that's why they came back from a close game and they turned it into a runaway.
Well, Radar, and think about this. When you look at the schedule they've played, they beat Crestview, Trinity, Columbiana, McDonald, and Lowville now. You look at that and you're like, wow, Camel's next, followed by Springfield, Waterloo, Middle Ridge, Jacksonville.
Next 2 weeks.
Oh,
tough.
Yeah.
I would have to say, really, really Western Reserve will have to lose a game somewhere along the line. And the one that really you have to look at really is how good has Western Reserve really he gonna be, especially if you get to the postseason and then in another 6 weeks down the line. So if I'm Western Reserve, yeah, you're good at 5-0. The question is, how good can you be? For example, look at South Range. They're a perfect 5-0. And when I look at really with Western Reserve a little bit, can Western Reserve run the table to make it a perfect 10-0? I would have to say, if I were the people of Berlin Center, I would say good luck, because the road to that
The road's hard.
10-0 is not going to be easy.
No,
You still got
nothing's easy.
Camel and Springfield next 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
mean,
You still got
especially-
Middle Ridge.
and then Middle Ridge. I mean, but you look at, I think Springfield's going to be that big test, right?
Yeah.
The big hump to get over.
You know, you got Jackson Milton at 2-3. You've got Waterloo that had 2 wins so far this season. It's not going to be an easy task. If they let down any given week, they're going to be in the wrong side of that scoreboard. And you got to remember, a week ago, it took a great goal line stand
Yes.
in overtime to keep that record unblemished.
And also you might add another. You have to really think of the first half of the year, really, with Western Reserve 5-0. But how about South Range? Also at a perfect 5-0. And incidentally, they are number 2. They were number 2 ranked in Division 5, Region 17.
Might be going up a little bit with that win
Yeah.
over a higher division Struthers.
Definitely. And I would have to say, in my gut opinion, look at how many games South Range has been in this year right up to this point. Not a single one has been a close game. And I, in my personal 100 opinion, and Akin Anthony, this South Range team is a lot better than even the one that won it all 2 years ago.
Oh, that's a bold
Wow.
statement, Radar.
Oh,
I
Wow.
like that. Hot take Radar
There we
says,
go.
there you go.
I like this South Range team better than the state champs from a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, that certainly is really going to.
I kind of agree with that, Scotty.
We're 10 weeks away from finding out if that's the real answer.
I gotta say, I kind of agree.
But then in West Branch, no question, 5-0. And
Radar.
Yeah.
And this year being the 30-year anniversary of West Branch's 1994
Well, good call there.
championship team,
Good call there.
I would have to say West Branch, and maybe the best team among the Lansing schools, without question.
They look good, Scotty.
Yeah, Ken.
They've gotten through some adversity the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Howland
Yeah.
pushed them a little bit. Cheney pushed them a little bit. They've been able to get through. Radar, we have another
Yeah.
announcer on the line, so we
We're going to
will
let you go.
let you go and go off to him. But thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you on the Go Dickey Electric Scoreboard show. More than comments this time.
Oh yeah. My debut on it in person, and I cannot wait to do it again somewhere along the line, because the first half of the high school football season is history. We got another 5 weeks to go.
Let's go.
Halfway home. Thanks,
Give
buddy.
me a high five, buddy.
You're welcome.
There
Thank
you
you
go.
guys very much.
You got it, Radar.
All right. So we'll let Radar exit stage left. And from there, we're going to head to a guy who got to see Wellsville firsthand
Yeah,
tonight.
it's the Wellsville man himself, Mr. Gary Altizer. Gary, how we doing after that one?
All doing pretty good. Just got home, so I'm in the truck. Hopefully, you guys can see and hear me.
Yeah, it looks, it's like Blair Witch Project, but we're good. We got you. Just don't start saying, don't you start being like, I'm so scared. Then we'll be all fine.
All right.
What impressed you about the Tigers tonight, Gary?
They finally put a complete game together. They've had so many games this year where they were winning and then something happens, or like last week against Southern Local, they had to lead in the third quarter. Then they give up 3 touchdowns to end the game. They were big against Weirton Madonna, and things didn't go their way. They ended up losing by 2 points there. So it was just a complete game. That was the first thing. And they made a move tonight. They put quarterback Richie Wise. He's been back and forth with the starter. He actually finished the season last year as the starting quarterback. He was in the backfield tonight and scored 2 touchdowns and looked really, really good running the ball. In fact, he looked the best out of as far as his field vision of anybody. Now, Tyrell Watkins had 3 touchdowns and almost 200 yards rushing, and I still think that Wise had the best field vision of all of them.
It's a big, big win because of what's laying down the next 5 weeks for them. This is where their schedule kind of turns into the meat grinder. They got Valley Christian. They got East Palestine, who's playing good ball. United. Then they follow with Columbiana and Lisbon, but those become rivalry games at that point in the season. So how much confidence do you see this building them into next week? Because they got to play a tough Valley Christian school.
Well, they've already had a tough schedule. They had to go 2 hours away to play Caldwell, who was a Final Four team in Division 7 last year. Steubenville Catholic Central was 9-1 last season, and I think they're 4-1 right now. Southern Local is always a tough team, so I don't think that this is going to be anything more. In fact, this is probably where the schedule lightens up because the first 5 games have been on the road. They haven't had a home game yet. So next week will be the first home game. Valley Christian's going to be tough, but after that, I think that they've got a shot in all 4 of those games, to really, pull some upsets.
Gary, let me ask you something because I said it early on the show, but you're the guy that's been calling EOAC games for a while, so you can tell me if I'm kind of on point with this or not. But I feel like the conference is deeper this year than we've really ever seen it as a member of the YSN coverage because you got more than 2 or 3 teams that are playing really good football right now and could sneak up and beat anyone on any given night.
Yeah, it's not as top heavy as it usually is. That's for sure. Valley. I think Valley is the class of the EOAC, but Southern Local, United, East Palestine, all 3 right there. You could beat each other any night. You toss them in a round robin. Who knows who comes out on top there? And I think Columbiana getting the big win tonight over Lisbon. Columbiana's had a really tough schedule to start the year. Yeah. Go look at their 3 out of conference games. Those were really tough games to play.
They were.
So, I think that the league is really about as even as we've seen it as long as it's existed. I think this is year 7 for it. I think this is absolutely the most even that we've seen it.
Gary, what a great call it was for you, man. We have always appreciate hearing from you, and we look forward to hearing from you back again next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Gary Altizer, voice of the Willisville Tigers, doing it all, man. He's on the Power Super Show with DJ and the boys, does the Willisville game, and then comes on does the Scoreboard Show with us. Talk about a full day.
Yeah. Now, we're going to hit one of the games that looked like it was going to be very lopsided one way, and all of a sudden somebody woke up.
Yeah.
And that would happen to be Beaver Local. Salem was up 17-0.
17-0.
And all of a sudden, the Beavers said, not on our field.
No damn way.
Yeah. It was like, not tonight.
Mm-mm.
Hold my Gatorade because here we come. And that ended up being a great game. 32-25. Beaver Local comes back to win it. Just a fantastic game. Michael McKenzie had a great call on it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime the Beavers win, it's a great call for Mike McKenzie. He's probably feeling on cloud 9 right now. What I liked about this game from Beaver Local is their defense stepped up big time every single time in that second half, especially last drive of the fourth quarter that Salem had the ball. They had every chance to just they didn't have to drive far. They were on their own 30-yard line. They could have gotten 20 or 30 yards and iced the clock and then gotten themselves in the position for what would have been a game-winning field goal. Beaver Local defense completely locked down, forced Salem to punt. They get the ball back. They score again, 32-25. They get the win. That is scoring, 32 of the final 39 points of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But I think the big thing you look at it is their resiliency. Mm-hmm. They did not quit because a lot of teams, you're looking up at the scoreboard and you're going, oh, boy.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah. And
now Salem's the one saying, here we go again. That's 2 weeks in a row where they've had just gut punches of losses.
Yeah, just hard, had a chance to win in overtime last week. Can't make the field goal.
Yep.
And then
double overtime.
Yeah, overtime.
Fall the Kansas City Catholic.
And then, to be up. I don't want to say that they started to feel good about themselves, but it's like, did they take their foot off the pedal?
I think that, I mean, this is crazy to say, but I think they scored too fast. They were up 17-0 before you could blink, and I don't think they really got that footing. And they, I mean, obviously, Beaver Local had a lot of time to come back at that point. But we looked, and it was already 2 scores for Salem, and then 17 eventually, and they just couldn't hold on to that.
Yeah, and I mean, you just look at it, and that's a tough loss for Salem tonight, but big.
They're
win.
a young team. They have a young mentality, and we're going to learn a lot about how mentally tough they are because they still have a huge chunk of their schedule left on the slate.
Yeah. Hey, you want to take a quick timeout?
Timeout
Here on our Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard. When we come back, we'll have the scoreboard up for you. We'll start running through the scores. I'm sure we got a couple more guys that are going to call in with their games.
Let's do it.
And we'll do that. But we'll be right back here.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Welcome back to the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard. We'll make an audible call because Anthony Malone walked in. We are not going to strive away from him because he got to see the Cowboys tonight.
How about them Cowboys?
Boy, howdy. I mean, it was – I knew it was going to be a defensive game. I know that if we were doing hypothetical over-unders, when Cheney's playing, you bet the under. You know, hypothetical.
Thank you for using hypothetical.
I know. Well, I'm just saying that's you can rely pretty heavily when you watch Cheney that you're going to get a great defensive performance. But I didn't expect to see what I saw tonight. And as soon as the first quarter hit off, it was a lot of fun to watch Cheney.
You know, me and Mike were talking about it. It felt like once Cheney had a lead, the way that game was going, you never want to say it's over, but you kind of felt like this is going to be really hard for Canfield to come back. They're not really built to have a comeback offense, and Cheney's defense is so good. When it was 14-0, we were looking at each other like this is feeling more like a 35-0 game.
It felt very daunting, the task that Canfield had in front of them, just in the first quarter alone, because you're seeing that just they're not giving up rushing yards. They're certainly not giving up anything passing, as we saw with a interception returned by Jordan Hewlett, who was able to get into the end zone. You know, all it was just he saw the ball go airborne and he immediately jumped the ball. It was fantastic.
How about that Hewlett family? Dad's on the coaching staff. Big brother's playing at Michigan. Sorry, Ohio State fans. And then you have little bro on the football team still lighting up.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, little bro's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, he caught some passes tonight that we don't talk a lot about the Cheney offense, and they've had their own woes with Matt Jones going down for an ankle injury and having
feel for that kid, man.
Pee-wee Langston, my favorite new nickname for any player. That is a nickname. But I
was hoping so.
No, well, that's a cool name. That's fine. It worked out for a lot of folks. But anyways, I thought he played really well in the passing game when they didn't need him to, and that's what really helped their team in the second half, taking the lead and continuing on.
Well, where I'm impressed was Canfield had a couple shots in the first half.
Yep.
They drove down deep, and all of a sudden, they got to a certain point, and Cheney's defense was like, no, you're done.
If they let up a penalty or they had a loss of yardage in any way, Canfield had a really hard time getting 10 yards.
Yeah.
And that's what did them in the red zone. And that was the case. Okay, like, all right, we got a game here. You're maybe going to get us some points here, and then we'll go from, seeing what they're able to catch up with in the second half. But it didn't work out that way.
I think Cheney's defense is built for goal line situations because they are big. They have way less of the field to defend. It's like, if you're inside the 5, you would think, oh, this is easy. But against Cheney, that defense inside the 5 gets even harder.
I think it was what you're seeing all year round. We have now a 5-week example as to what exactly we're going to run into. I think you're seeing within 5 weeks, you're seeing a good war of attrition of what their defense is going to be like the rest of the season. They rarely give up points, which is the goal of all defenses in general, but the way they do it and the way they play defense, as soon as they get into the passing game of any team, they have a great job of covering it up, and they're able to rush the quarterback.
We're talking about a team that held West Branch scoreless through a half.
Yeah.
And still held them to 20 points, which is now a season low by quite a bit.
So I want to see if you agree with me here, Anthony.
Okay.
I've said this every time Canfield and Cheney have played, probably in the last 4 to 5 years. It's a matchup issue because of the size and the athleticism of Cheney, what they can do to Canfield.
Combined.
Just feel I agree with you, because the thing that I saw in today's example that they've had in past years, where Canfield excels, they are met really quickly by Cheney in that category, and it's almost even. And then in categories where Canfield has had trouble increasing their, of course they won a state championship, so it's not all that bad, right? But when you look at the matchup, their weaknesses seems to be Cheney's best options. And it just hasn't worked. It felt like a daunting task the entire game as soon as the first quarter was over, as we've already talked about.
It's the combination of size and athleticism in the same team. A lot of teams have really fast athletes. A lot of teams have really big players. Canfield can handle 1 out of 2. But when you have both of them on the same roster and you have guys that are big and fast, that's too tough.
I think for Canfield, they're trying to find out their offensive identity and figure out where they want to go from here. They have 5 more weeks to figure out before playoffs, and hopefully they're able to make it, as we hope all of our YSN teams do.
4 weeks. They have an open date.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And that's even more of a problem.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to get reps.
Well, and it doesn't get any easier because they go to a team that they will have to really slug it out with next week in Dover.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier as the season goes along, as you get further into your own conference and then further into your own schedule. I think Cheney, I'm really looking forward to the next week's matchup for them.
Yeah.
I think this is a game to build on. They found things that maybe they didn't always go to. The well wasn't so, fruitful when it came to, can Langston do this? And it proved to me tonight, Langston can play. And he can play really well. It was a good, if you have to have Matt Jones out of a game, Langston can run the offense.
Now, the big thing for Cheney is, can they find an opponent for next week? They have an open week, but after that, it looms Cardinal Mooney, University School, Ursuline, Youngstown East.
Right. And that's a tough schedule to begin with, but I think if they can build on this, and they got a really special season upcoming. Defensively, there's no other team I'd want as my first selection defensive wise if there is such thing as high school fantasy football. But when it comes to the high school teams that I've seen so far, they have a lot of talent.
Hypothetically.
He loves that hypothetical word.
I love an imaginary world with all these different things.
Week 5, word of the week, hypothetically.
South Range education is coming in handy for me.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But I just think the thing that you got to see tonight was you actually got to see how athletic that Cheney Cowboy team is, because that's what it took to beat Canfield.
That was probably the number one thing I took away from tonight of how athletic they truly are from sideline to sideline. And, jet sweeps that Canfield were attempting, or anytime they go for a screen pass, there was 3 or 4 guys on defense already there, ready to make a tackle. And that's something you can't teach that element. You can teach pursuit angles and how to get in position to be a good tackler. But if you're able to get 5 guys the ball as soon as the ball is either handed off or the ball is caught, you have a real gift on that side of the ball.
Mm-hmm. They're getting 5 guys to the ball. Most football teams are getting 5 guys after the game.
Is it open after 10?
But
well done, Anthony. By the way, this is not.
Couldn't resist.
It's the other Anthony. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But before we get off the Cheney and Canfield, just shout out to Matt Jones, man. That guy, he's dealt with it throughout his whole career, and here's another little injury that he has to deal with. And we love covering Matt Jones. He's just a great kid, a great athlete, and we hope he gets back on the field as soon as possible.
It's hard enough to be an underclassman and get on the field with a team that and the players that he's played with already in 4 years. But he was able to do it in a very young age, and he got to his senior year, and here we are, unfortunately, in the situation that we are for Matt Jones. But hopefully the Cowboys can keep this going for him.
Yeah, let's hope they do. And it's just, they're fun to watch.
They are.
I've said that every week that I've seen them, whether they've won or lost. Like, they go to Boardman. That's a 15-0 game. Yes, we know Boardman's improved, but you ask any Boardman player, any coach from that game, Cheney gave them everything that they wanted.
You would have thought the referee allowed them to put on 22 players on the field when they were playing against, if you're Boardman, you're wondering how they're doing what they're doing, but they're just they know what they're doing. That's why I'm excited for the rest of the way for them.
Well, we're gonna jump into the scoreboard. Anthony, you're welcome to stay along and pop it up with us if you so please.
Yeah.
But the scoreboard on the website, brought to you by our good friends over at Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs. I'm going to full screen it there so you have a good idea of what we're looking at. Then I'm going to full screen it for us so we can see what we're looking at too. We will start with Mike, that Camel and Springfield game that we talked about a little bit ago. Springfield pulls away.
Yeah, absolutely. 37-8. Very impressed with Springfield. And as we mentioned, Sean Guerrero now.
One win.
It's, you've become the all-time winningest coach in Tiger territory. But I just love the way you want to talk about another team that approaches games the right way. Sean Guerrero, what he does to have his teams prepared, they literally look like they're walking out on the field with their lunch pail and they're ready to go. And the whole thing around them is just fun to watch.
I'll never forget the guts and the tenacity he had in the playoff game a couple years back. Springfield needs a first down. It's 4th and a while. And he pulls out the double reverse pass for a touchdown. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh man, not a lot of guys have that kind of gusto. And Sean Guerrero, he earned a lot of respect for me that day for sure.
I will never forget the guys shooting that game. Their camera had gone down.
Yep.
They were holding their iPad out.
Romo and Jamie, man.
As high as
they just turned the laptop backwards. He used the laptop camera.
But he held it like it was an iPad.
But whatever it took. That was
a great finish. And then,
yeah.
And then the game, of course, you got to see Anthony all Cheney tonight.
Yeah, 22 points, one offensive touchdown, one kick return, punt return, an interception. That's something that's really hard to explain out loud until you actually see it.
We didn't talk about it, but that's trying to kill Canfield's defense going. Like, we keep up one score.
It's very demoralizing. That's what it was. It was demoralizing in that first quarter because, you're watching what's happening. And I always talked about interceptions and or just turnovers in general, penalties as well as special teams are going to help you win the game, and that's what happened. So
we have DJ Oakley, the man.
Let's bring on the boss man.
DJ, how we?
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, we got you. So those Raiders took them. They punched first. Struthers punched back. South Range said, "Okay, here we go again." The block punt to me was the turning point, along with the fumble at the goal line.
Yeah, you look at what the Raiders were able to do tonight. Now, I think I said this during the broadcast that, everybody's getting used to the flashy, big touchdowns, 70-yard runs, 50-yard runs. But let's go back. And Anthony, I think I heard you say it on the way home. Let's go back to what got the Raiders a state championship. Let's go back to what got them to be a perennial powerhouse, and that is controlling the football and getting literally 10 yards at a time. If you watch that, one of those last drives, it was Dominguez 10 yards, Smesko 10 yards, Toy 10 yards. I mean, it was just methodical. It was, and I have to give Struthers a lot of roses here because Devin Bram might be, and we've seen a lot of great runners here on YSN. He might be the best runner I've seen in person in a long, long time.
Yep.
If not, he's definitely top 2. When you think about some of these runners, that young man is outstanding, and hopefully he's playing at the next level because he's going to make any team he's on better.
What I like, DJ, is we saw 2 things from him in this game. We saw his breakaway speed in that first touchdown, but then in their next touchdown later on in the game, we saw his power at the goal line, that he can just pound it in the middle of the offensive line and push himself into the end zone.
They couldn't tackle him. I mean, they had him by the legs. He'd twist out of it. I mean, he's built like an ox. And you talk about the breakaway speed, 77 yards, and that stunned everybody in Rominger Stadium. I mean, you could hear a pin drop on the Raider side of things. And then on the other side, Struthers brought a great crowd. Great crowd. This is a team, this is a community that's really proud of this Struthers team, and they should be, because they might not lose a game the rest of the way. And you look at their schedule and you go, okay, you get in the playoff, deep 4, absolute gauntlet. But the rest of the year, this was arguably the NEA championship. I know Poland's going to have something to say about it next week, but a lot of people had this game circled on their calendar. Some people didn't, and that's why they didn't get the game tonight. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where, you knew this was going to be a dogfight. It didn't matter the records, and it was going to be a game that looks probably worse on the scoreboard than it actually was. Don't get me wrong, South Range dominated in several facets of the game, but Mike said it, the play of the game, maybe the play of the season, was Drew Starkey, a freshman, up the middle, blocking that punt. Raiders pounce on in the end zone. All of a sudden, they got the lead back, and the shoe's on the other foot. So, it just goes to show you that special teams truly is special.
There's one thing I forgot to mention, DJ, and you go back, and I believe it's in the third quarter, the goal line stand by the Raiders. And Bam Bam had the ball, I believe, 3 straight carries, and the Raider defense was like, no, you are not getting into our house.
Yeah, I can't. Did he get in? I thought they called
he got in the second time they were down there. They called the timeout right before they stopped him on 4th down. Came back out, and they gave him an extra blocker.
Oh, okay.
And he got in.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
forgot because we swapped there.
What a call by John Bayek, though, to call that timeout, because it didn't work. It didn't work. And then all of a sudden they call that timeout. They adjusted, and then they get the ball in the end zone, and then you're still in it at that point. So I don't know. It's South Range. You have to be impressed, but I was incredibly impressed by Struthers all night. But if you look at this, and this is what I think Coach Bayek's going to have a hard time sleeping tonight, because you look at the turnovers. Yep. Anthony, you said it. You can't make mistakes against a team like that. And South Range is in the same boat. You got to be sure-footed. You got to understand, hold on to the football, ball security. I give Bram a ton of credit for breaking those, but you got to finish. And, sometimes we see this in all levels. When you're trying to make that extra play, that's when bad things happen.
Well, I give the Raiders a lot of credit because you could have easily been looking ahead to Poland, because the last few years it seems like it's been Poland South Range. They did not look ahead whatsoever.
I can promise you that this game, nobody on that burgundy and gold roster was looking ahead anywhere. This is a game that they might have looked ahead to in weeks past. I don't want to say for certain, but you hear it, right? You hear the rumbles. You hear guys like us talking about, oh, it's Struthers South Range week. Oh, it's only 2 weeks away. It's only 1 week away. It's hard not to do that, especially when you've got that non-conference schedule.
We're such bad people.
I know.
Terrible.
We break all the coaching rules.
Got to move the needle, right? Got to move the needle. But let's face it. If we go and put a truth serum in Dave Rock and all the coaching staff, you're telling me that they weren't looking at Struthers and watching tape on Struthers the last 4 weeks, understanding what they do. Obviously a different scenario for Struthers with the injuries and some of the key members of their team that they lost. But, they're not going to blame it on, well, we didn't have such and such, or we didn't have this. They played a hell of a game. Just straight up, they played a hell of a game. They did a great job. They went up against South Range in a hostile environment. I mean that with all due respect. When I say hostile, I mean that's a place that it is very, 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 very hard to win in Rominger Stadium. And one team's been able to do it, and nobody else has been able to ring that bell. So, well done by Struthers tonight. But South Range just keeps the train rolling down the tracks.
We saw a big special teams play on the block punt, but I think an underrated one was the 41-yard field goal, proving once again that if it comes down to it, South Range can kick it, and that could be something that down the line, playoffs maybe, it comes down to a game-winning field goal, and South Range would feel comfortable once they pass that 30-yard line. We can kick it from here.
Mikey, I don't want to call you old or even in point to it, but you've been in this business a lot longer than we have. Can you remember, excuse me, can you remember a time that a kicker had 40-plus yard field goals 3 consecutive weeks?
That one's going to be tough. I do know Salem had a kicker that went to Michigan that was really good.
Okay.
I don't know if he kicked 3 straight weeks 40-plus.
That's
okay.
I mean,
and that's what I mean. Like, this kid's going to get noticed because of that. And
well, it's funny because he's got the 55 on, and he's just absolutely destroying pigskin through a couple of. And there's going to be some D3, D2, D1, even a small D1 that looks at them and goes, "I want that kid."
Yeah, this kid can kick. Maybe he can block too.
How'd our boy Hake do tonight?
Winner.
Big
time. Put up 56.
Jay Sean's a weapon. I'm sure Yuriachi carries.
56 to 30. East Palestine scored
38. Yeah, they got a late one.
38.
So we'll give Palestine credit. They put 38 up, but that defense had no answer for Valley Christian's offense.
Yeah, it's a different ball game when you're playing that many skill guys, right? And I love seeing Owen Yuriachi rack up these yards. I think that not only is he a great kid, but he is a guy that he's going to break a record. I don't know what record there is to be broken, but he's going for something right now because I'm just guessing he ran for over 100.
Yeah.
So
and they were all those quarterback draws that just like everyone knows it's coming. They still can't stop it.
You know what I love? Andy Hake will know he's closing in on a record, but he's not going to tell him until he breaks it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want.
Dempster.
Dempster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things you don't want to jinx it. Valley is a very physical team. They beat you to the football. There's always 11 hats on it. And I mean, people are like, oh, well, you're just saying this because Andy's your friend. Andy's my friend, but I'm honest with him. He's honest with me. When you're bad, you're bad. When you're good, you're good. He's good right now. He took his lumps last year, but he knew that he had some horses in the barn. And, he's a guy that appreciates. He's not going to rub your nose in it. That's not his style. But, it's when push comes to shove, I'm just guessing that everybody kept their ones in throughout the night.
He's always a great piece of fresh air because he literally will tell you, we stink right now, or right now we're clicking. But it's always we're. It's not so-and-so's clicking. We're clicking. It's a team effort from Andy, win or lose.
I talked to him this morning, and he was telling me he's very humble. And he's like, I don't know what we have tonight. He actually was worried about East Palestine, as he should have been. I mean, they put almost 40 points on him, right? So, if we're getting into a boat race against Valley Christian, it's going to take a very special team that plays defense and can move the football to beat this team. And Malvern is a very good historically good football team, traditionally rich program, and they went toe to toe with them. I mean,
absolutely.
Like that, you go, wow, how good can this team be? Now they're in D6. We all know who's lingering in D6. Those killer bees from up in Kirtland. But I've never seen Andy throw the towel in on anything, even ping pong game. So like he's going to put his guys up and, coach them up the best he can. And tonight, guys, I'll say it again. I love the Bulldogs. I'm an alum. This is a Bulldog team that, a couple years ago isn't hanging. That clock is rolling. Kudos to the coaching staff. Kudos to the kids for going out there and battling, because you're not going to get your riches overnight. This is something that's going to take. This is a process. It's going to be year after year. It's going to be, monotonous weight room stuff. It's going to be a lot of film time to understand, not only your position, but positions around you. I mean, that's why successful teams are successful in this area, because they have that happy medium between film and field.
Absolutely.
They're 3-2. I don't think they're done winning in East Palestine. I think they got a couple more wins under their belt.
No, they're going to win games. They're going to win games. And don't be shocked if, in the wild west here, the EOAC, that we're going to see a team that potentially knocks off Valley, because it's hard to keep focus for 10 weeks, boys. It's hard to keep that focus. And United looked pretty good tonight and getting a win in the Wigwam.
Yeah.
Does Valley go to the Wigwam? Because that's a dangerous place. I think United learned that tonight.
Yeah.
It can get hairy in the Wigwam really quick.
I think so. I think they do. I don't have it in front of me, but I think they do.
That'll be fun.
Hang on.
Well,
I'll let you know here real quick.
Here's the tough part, and I hope people understand this. To coach Valley, and Andy will tell you this, it's a different kind of coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have all these shows that, that feed the teams and stuff like that. They don't get fed like that. It's different, So when we shine a light on their kids, it could be for the first time. You never know who's going to be a practice and who's not going to be a practice.
Yeah.
You're battling this. But I'm just proud of him and proud of that coaching staff to keep these kids coming back and keeping them excited about the game of football, because we all know sports can change lives.
Week 8, they go to the Wigwam.
Wigwam. I love it.
Yep.
I might head down there. I don't know what to do. South Ranger's been home for 30 weeks.
30 weeks.
Take the
all right.
Send.
Well, hey, man, we appreciate you coming in. We're going to get Eric Hughes in next. He had a great game out in Lowville, so we're going to swap, but we appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Can you pass on a message to Eric Hughes?
Yes.
Have fun next week wearing that hot dog outfit on Power Hour.
Absolutely. We will let him know. Should he put some ketchup or mustard on it?
Oh, there's ketchup, mustard, and relish on it already. So
all right.
Already.
He's got a smile on his face. He can hear you.
See you, boys.
See ya.
All right, Mr. Hot Dog himself coming on, Eric. What's up, buddy?
It's actually funny. Chris actually forgot the hot dog costume, so we're gonna have to arrange something for me to get it or whatever. But it's whatever, man. Sure.
Yeah.
Only one show I have to do it.
Yeah, you can live. You'll look great on it.
Yeah, Chris had to do it last year.
One
week, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah.
You
got to see a great.
Not going to apologize for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about that game you saw. That was one that it kept drawing me in.
I think in the end, it really came down to experience. West Reserve, they're the one team in the conference that brought back all their great players from last year, and they played great tonight. Lowville, they have a lot of talent still. I think they're going to be fine. They just have a lot of young players on that team, a little bit of an experience that it kind of showed tonight.
Talk about the rivalry, right? The rivalry of this game and how much intensity you saw on the field perspectively, because we could kind of see it in the broadcast, but I'm sure you got a firsthand glimpse of just how intense these two teams were going at each other. We know they quote unquote don't like each other because it's just one of the biggest rivalries.
They really don't. No.
Right.
Yeah, it was a very competitive game. There were a lot of big hits, chirping after the whistle, stuff like that. Some happened after the game also. I wasn't really a big fan of. I won't get too deep into it, but I wasn't happy about that. But yeah, it was a competitive game, though. I thought two rivals going at it. But Western Reserve, credit to them, they got their revenge. Lowville came into their state and beat them in the playoffs last year, and they got their lick back.
Quick question for you, Eric. What was the tipping point in the game tonight? Because for a while they traded, and then all of a sudden, Western Reserve seemed once they got that upper hand. Is there a certain play, sequence, or anything that you saw that really kind of just changed that momentum in favor of the Blue Devils?
Western Reserve, they had a deep touchdown pass toward the end of the first half. I forget who caught the ball, but it was like 3rd and 25, I believe it was, and it was right before halftime. That gave them a 2-score lead. Lowville, I mean, they kept coming back. They kept making a 1-score game, but the defense, they really just couldn't get a stop in that second half, and that's where the experience kind of comes in. Young defense versus experienced, talented offense. And then Western Reserve, they were able to pick off Ricky Wilrich at the end there to help kind of seal it. They scored another touchdown after that.
I mean, if Western Reserve, who is known for their run game and has really good people in the backfield, if they can also throw efficiently, I think that's a tipping point. I mean, if you let them be a really balanced offense, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. I went 0 for 2 tonight, actually, because Chris DeLucia I called the game with. He's a South Range kid. I'm a Struthers kid. DJ talked about that game a little bit ago. Didn't really go my way either.
Nope. And
but
he's
back to the
kind
drawing
of
board, I guess.
He's been the voice of Western Reserve, so he got kind of a 2 for tonight on you, didn't he?
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, it was fun though. Chris is awesome, dude. It was fun to call the game with him. I'll say that.
But you know what, Eric? You get to be the one that comes on the Scoreboard show, so you get that privilege.
Yeah, I guess so.
Listen, you only got to wear a hot dog costume. It's not like losing your fantasy football league and having to shave your head in the middle of the winter and then you freeze.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did that once.
We don't make you get a tattoo that says hot dog on the bicep.
Yeah, be glad they didn't do that to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Eric, what a game you got to call. We appreciate you calling in. We'll see you again next week, buddy.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks.
What do you say? Back to the scoreboard
Yeah,
real quick. Let's
we'll
wrap
head
it
back
up.
to the scoreboard. And
I think we were at Crestview Southeast, right? Conneaut Harvey.
Yeah,
we got 2 wins.
Yeah, Harvey beat Conneaut tonight 47-13, and we move around like we were talking. That Crestview team is very impressive, and Ty got to see them. He was all about them, and they're young. They are young, and they are back. As we mentioned here, Valley Christian very impressive tonight with a 56-38 win, but don't sleep on these Bulldogs yet.
Valley Christian's defense didn't have too much answers for East Palestine either. I think the difference was there were times when Valley Christian could score pretty quickly, and there were just a couple of those possessions that they traded blows. East Palestine was stopped down to the goal line once. That was a big trade there. So every little stop, Valley took advantage of.
This West Geauga team, this is the second week in a row they've had a clock.
They're not being kind to YSN teams.
They absolutely are not. They have come in the past 2 weeks and they have just handled business. So
why don't Wolverines come on to YSN Network? We'd love to have you. Quit doing this to us.
Might as well come join us. We'll join you.
Yeah.
Garrettsville Garfield, you want to talk about a team that came in on a mission? They took all flash out of champion tonight.
Fitty.
Yeah.
A big Fitty burger.
Yeah, like that.
But I said it before and I'll say it again. Garrettsville Garfield, when conference play hits, it's a different animal out there.
And I was happy. We got to see a lot of Perry tonight. We had a game on.
For the first time this week, we got to bring it up on the audible call.
And they're impressive.
Yeah. Reigning state champs for a reason.
Yeah, they're good. They're a team to watch out for. And then Girard, I thought a very hard fought win. That Pie Valley team got some size.
They're big. And that can cause a lot of problems, but Girard does just enough to escape with the win.
Yeah. Very impressive win for Pullen as they shut out. And
this is my biggest surprise because Hubbard looked so good coming into this one, especially offensively. And they just could not move the ball at all against Pullen's defense. It makes you think Pullen's defense may be for real a little bit.
Oh, I think they are.
Especially coming off that loss to Canfield.
You know, that was a tough one, but they bounced back. You know, it could have been easily like they didn't look ahead.
We were talking about South Range looking at it. I think Poland was the one that really could have looked ahead because they're thinking we have this big opportunity to go to South Range next week.
Yeah.
We have a home game this week. It's this Hubbard. We've beaten Hubbard before. It didn't look over them, and they really took care of business tonight to set up what is going to be a really big matchup next week.
And how about McDonald? They bounced back after a heartbreaking overtime loss to Western Reserve where they go for 2 in the win. They took out a lot of frustration.
Jackson Moulton drew the short straw.
Yeah.
Because you did not want to play McDonald after that.
Yeah. And then for the first time this season, we don't get to say Orange won.
We were so close.
Yeah.
But you know what? We couldn't find the last time they went 5-0. So maybe this is a blessing a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's good for Jefferson because Jefferson was really struggling.
Yeah,
So
they needed
to win.
They needed that one. So big win for Jefferson.
Now, Orange gets really hard next week because they got Perry.
Pretty good team.
It's a pretty good team.
Yeah. So we'll find out a lot more about Orange again next week. And then Hawken, this game should be over. But they were
Look at those numbers.
Yeah, that's like an electronic football score. Could be 100, but it was 60-38, and that one was pretty much all Hawken. So give Lakeside credit. At least they put up points, but they had no answer for that Hawken offense. And speaking of teams that are struggling, Niles is one of them, but kudos to Lakeview.
Lakeview took out a lot of frustration. You talk about McDonald. I mean, Lakeview, Eason was just an unreal beast tonight. He had 3 touchdowns in the second quarter alone, 2 on the ground, 1 on the air. He was the lone touchdown scorer from last week's South Range game. So he's proven what kind of an athlete he is. And Lakeview is still trying to get into that conversation of a team that can be in the top tier of the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they move along with a big win. The Brookfield game, I know that's over. And kudos to Liberty.
We talk about teams that need to win.
You talk about teams that were just, and early on, it looked like Brookfield was going, and then all of a sudden Liberty took the lead. Brookfield bounced back. But in the end, something changed at halftime for Liberty. Because the second half, it was pretty much all Leopards.
The urgency kicked in, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Liberty was staring down the barrel of going 0-5, and they said, we can't do this.
Yeah, can't do it. And then Columbiana, Lisbon, rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like it was going to be a blowout, and all of a sudden, what was 28-0 or 21-0 becomes a 21-7, 21-14 game. Little bar back and forth, but the Clippers – they needed that win, and they got it.
A couple of teams back-to-back on the scoreboard that desperately needed wins that got them.
Yeah, and a tough game for Louisville. You lose by 7 to North Canton Hoover tonight.
The Leopards are 2-3, and all 3 of their losses are by 1 possession. It's just the little things that they're trying to fix as a football program to get those wins. But really strong schedule, and they're barely losing these games. So they're going to be super dangerous, especially if they do enough to get into the playoffs.
Middle Ridge, good road win. They go to Waterloo and take it 42-18. And Ridge is one of those teams, hot and cold. But when they put it together, they are tough to play.
Well, I've said they're like Canfield. They're trying to figure out an identity. They don't have Ian Erb anymore, who was about 80% of their offense last year. And they're trying to find what works and what doesn't. They're starting to figure that out. 2 wins in a row for the Rams.
Yeah, LeBray, they tossed a shutout against Newton Falls. Newton Falls is struggling.
Yep.
And they, it's a young program.
Yep.
But LeBray takes care of business, and then
tough one for Boardman, man.
Boardman. They had the lead. They gave that one up. Riverside didn't quit on them. Once they got that lead, they tacked on one late.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't think they need to. I was like, did you really need to score that touchdown? You got the ball back with enough time to knee it out, but Riverside wanted to kind of prove a little bit of a point there. Yeah. So they were able to get that 10-point victory. And this was a game that kind of erupted out of the halftime because it was 14-7, I think, at half.
Boardman was up 14-0 at one point.
We blinked, and it was all of a sudden 21-14. There were 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. So the offense is really not rolling. And that last drive for Boardman, Zach Haas on a scramble. He was about a yard short from completing that fourth down. Riverside gets the ball back, and that's how they win the game. They eventually went down and scored the touchdown, but it was 24-21 at that point, so we all knew that Riverside was going to win that game.
Yeah, and then we go along. You want to talk about a tale of 2 different games. At first, it's all Salem. They're up 17-0, and I turn to you, I'm like, whew, we might not be tuning into this one too long. Next thing I know, you turn to me and said 17-7. And I go, hey, it's 17-14.
Hey, it's tied up at 25. That's a really weird score, by the way. Football doesn't usually get to 25.
Yeah, but credit to Beaver Local. Yeah. Absolute credit to them because they could have quit, and they absolutely did not. They took adversity, took it right to the mouth, and found a way to fight back and win. So big win for them.
Tough one for Salem.
Another
2 weeks in a row.
heartbreaker for Salem 2 weeks in a row. St. Clairsville, you told me they were a pretty good football team.
They're pretty dang
They're
good.
a pretty dang good football team.
East Liverpool hung with them for a long time.
Yeah.
This was a good fight for East Liverpool.
And then one of the games we've been talking about, South Range handles business. No running clock tonight. Starters got to play pretty near all 4 quarters for the Raiders, which is good moving down the road because games do get tougher.
I think the biggest difference in this game was Struthers didn't play clean football, and South Range, for the most part, did. They did have that fumble that went out of bounds.
Yeah.
For the most part, they held the ball. They didn't make any detrimental mistakes. Struthers made too many.
Yeah, you give up a block punt that ends up as a touchdown.
And ball that probably would have been a touchdown for Struthers eventually.
Yeah.
They fumbled at the 5-yard line.
Yeah, so tough one.
You don't want to harp on them because it happens. It's football, but at the same time, it's a difference maker.
Yeah, it was a great game, though.
Oh, yeah.
And then another great game, Southern and United. This was one I remember when I looked at you early and I said, Southern's up 7-0. They just scored. And you went, what? Yeah.
I thought United was going to come in here and show off a little bit because Southern had been struggling, but the Wigwam is a dangerous place to go.
Yes. Yeah, and you better dot your I's, cross your T's, and buckle your chin strap because you're in for a game when you head there.
But United escapes it with the win, 17-14.
And then how about Ursuline? They go up to Warren tonight and handle business, shutting out the Raiders 35-0.
No problem at all.
Yeah. And then Wellsville, they needed a win. They needed a win. They got it done in Latonia tonight, shutting them out. And another game that was tight for a long time, but when West Branch decided we're going to end this, the Warriors started firing.
This reminded me a little bit of last week where it was Warriors just trying to figure it out. But once the puzzle clicked, there was nothing the other team could do. And that's what happened tonight, too.
Yeah.
Just figuring out, and then, okay.
Well, and what I like about West Branch is they just do their thing. While it's tight, I don't think they panic. I think this team is very experienced, and now they get it, and they did it right. And
something that not a lot of people talk about, Mike, that I think helps them. They have a lot of state championship baseball players from the spring on that team that have come into that locker room and be like, this is a championship culture. This is what it takes to win at that level.
Yeah, we've done it in baseball. Let's try and do it in football now. And as everybody says, 30th anniversary of the 94 championship, which is still one of the greatest runs I ever got to witness. Western Reserve, perfect on the season. And boy, they are playing some pretty good football.
They are. And then we go to Wyndham, go into Grand Valley. Bombers open those Bombay doors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know they won that game. Another game, JFK goes to Marlington. That's a big win for the Eagles because that's going to get them a lot of points.
Yeah, Marlington's a big division-wise team.
Yeah. And then over across the border, Beaver falling to Central Valley. If you don't know anything about that Central Valley team, remember that's the team that came to Austintown last year and beat Fitch.
Yep.
So they're a good football program. And a big win for Mohawk also over in Western PA as they shut out Beaver Falls tonight. And then
you have to tell me, because you're from Western PA a little bit, how close is Beaver and Beaver Falls? Are those like neighboring schools?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure there weren't like two different Beavers out there.
That's a rivalry game.
All right.
Almost anybody that plays in that Beaver County area, those are rivalry football games. So, those are neighbors, those are friends. They could be cousins, so they're playing. Edison.
Don't let this sneak by you because Gary Altizer brought up how good this Caldwell football team is, and Edison handled them tonight.
A good win for them. And then I'm sure this has to be a final now. East and Shaw. You talk here for a second, and I'll see if I can dig anything.
See if Mike, you got a final for East and Shaw? Yeah, refresh it should be up. Oh, well, we're right. We haven't refreshed it in a while. Let's just hit refresh. Well, if it went from 6-0 on the scoreboard to 30-6, that'll be cool. It is. Look,
it is.
There you go, 30-6. East gets the win.
There you go. So, I mean, you look at that, and for East, here's a team that if they could just put back-to-back weeks together, they've won one, they've lost one, they've won one, but their schedule's not easy.
No, they had Ursuline last week. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, no, not easy at all. You're there in that Steel Valley Conference. Ursuline and Mooney both in it that play ridiculous teams all year too.
Now they will play. I believe it's the team that played Struthers next week. Don Community.
Yes,
Down
that's to
community
be.
or whatever.
No offense to Dawn, but Dawn Prep, which actually I believe, if I think I heard this for the Struthers game, it won't count towards the
It does
OSSA rankings. So it's just a game for East to kind of gain some confidence.
Yeah, keep playing, and but they end their schedule home for Howland, home for Struthers, at Mooney, at Cheney, the annual rivalry game in week 10.
Howland, that's not something to sleep on. I mean, I know that the score was kind of lopsided tonight with West Branch, but they gave West Branch problems, so I wouldn't sleep on the Tigers in that game against East.
Yeah. Well, hey, that puts a wrap on week 5. We are halfway through the season. We're so glad you joined us for the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard. We're glad you were hopefully with us during the audible call where we had 23 games and we were flipping everywhere, talking and made sure we got bands in there and everything. But that puts a wrap on that. But we're not done yet. Our affiliate, WFMJ TV, about 3 minutes away, the overtime report about to kick itself off. And you can join my good friend Dana Ballish and Brittany Bissell as they get ready to kick that coverage off. I'm sure they got highlights probably of at least 20 to 21 games, I would say.
Their crew does a good job getting out there.
Great game. They'll have lots of highlights for you to see. They'll have all the scores as we just gave you, too.
Let's just say 21 highlights because it fits the brand.
21 highlights
for the brand.
Fits. Yeah. I love that brand. It's all good.
Anything over 21 is a bust, guys.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, thanks for joining us. Make sure you tune in and join them as they get ready for that. But we will see you back here for week 6 as we kick off the second half of the season next week. Hard to believe we're halfway through.
We're going to start to talk about playoffs pretty soon.
Playoffs.
It's coming.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here for the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard Show next week. I'm Mike Ankelson. That's Anthony Hartwig. Hope you had a great evening, folks.
YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of your